Hello, everyone. Another Women on the Move book club, and today is Thursday, December 7th. The year is 2023. And our host for this evening will share the title and author of the book, but we'll just first start with introductions. I'm Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. I'm Vivian.
Hello,
I'm
everyone.
Linda.
Hello, everyone. I'm Odella.
Hello, I'm Linda.
Hello, I'm Zadie.
Awesome. So there are just five of us tonight, but five powerful women, and we are going to discuss the book that Vivian shared. Tonight is her book club, so she's going to be hosting it. So Vivian, take it away.
Definitely. Well, the name of the book is Keeping Faith, and it's a story by Jodi Picoult. And it's a very, I want to say, controversial.
Some kind of way, Vivian, you got frozen. I don't know what happened, but you're frozen right now. There you go. So Vivian, excuse me for interrupting, Vivian. Right after you started talking and said you were going to say controversial, you were frozen. We couldn't hear. So go ahead and start again.
Okay, good evening, everyone. The story that we are going to discuss tonight is Keeping Faith by Jodi Picoult. And it's a controversial story about a mother and a daughter. Faith is the daughter, the mother is Mariah. And it starts off when they come home and find the father there with another woman. And in the heat of all of the confusion and the back and forth, Faith develops an imaginary friend. And that's how the story takes off. So in the story, the imaginary friend turns out to be God, and is introduced to Faith as her guard rather than God. And the things that take place during the book lets you know that, or makes you know that it is some kind of intervention from a higher power. So I'd like to start off by asking you a few questions about the book. But before I do that, I'd like to get just your overall impression of the book before we get started. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first. I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I like the idea that the daughter's name is symbolic in that it connects to the story, the title. Mm-hmm. And so you almost know that there's something significant and phenomenal is going to happen because the title itself is Keeping Faith. And so given the story, you think it's about the daughter, but it's more than about the daughter. It's about everyone and their connection to God or lack of.
Okay, thank you.
I want to agree with Odella. The title kind of drew me in as well. Keeping Faith. When you think about it, it's on two levels. There's actually a fight to keep custody of the little girl, Faith, but it's also talking about that keeping that spiritual faith, whether you're Catholic, Jewish, or Protestant. So to me, the title was the hook for me. After I read a couple of chapters, I said, "Oh, I get it. It's all about the custody, but it's also about the religious faith part of it."
Zadie, do you want to go next?
Okay, what I liked about it is the mingling of the denominations, the Catholic, the Jewish, and how they kind of commingled. You know, what she was seeing was relevant to all of them, and how it just all kind of went together with the faith.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I love the book as well. And at the end, my notes, I put title can be taken two ways, which is what you ladies have shared. Dual meaning, keeping faith in God and keeping faith daughter. So I love that. And I love the miracles that occurred in the book. It was just unmistakably God in this, but they weren't aware. So it's beautiful how revelation unfolded in the book.
Great. Now, in her absence, I'm going to speak for Sam because we had a lot of discussions about this book. At first, the first, I guess, 10 chapters, Sam was saying how much she did not like the book. And she did not understand why we were reading this book. And then once the miracles started happening, and once I think the stigmata started happening, I think Sam got interested, like, oh, and then the toss between Catholic and Jewish, I think, kind of opened her eyes too. And I explained to her, one thing Jodi Picoult does in her books is she really makes you think, and she makes you question. And I think that's what happened with Sam in this book, to the point that she discussed it with some of her members in her Bible study group. And she told them they need to read the book. So I thought that was important. So I have a few questions that I've gathered, and I would like to ask you guys. First, I want to just list the characters that I can recall right off so that everybody's on the same page. Of the White family, we have Mariah, Faith, and Colin. Colin was the husband, Faith the daughter, and Mariah is the mother, and their last name was White. Then we have Millie Epstein, who is the grandmother. Ian Fletcher, who is the atheist reporter or news guy. We have the rabbi and the priest. We have the Dr. Keller, who was the doctor for Faith. We have Kinsey, who was the court-appointed advocate for Faith. Then you have the two lawyers, Joan, and I can't remember Joan's last name, and the other lawyer was Metz. Joan was Mariah's lawyer, and Metz was Colin's lawyer. Metz was his last name. So here's my question. Much is said in the story about Mariah not being a good mother. Do you think this is valid? Does Faith think she is a good mother? Is motherhood truly a work in progress as Millie describes it? Who'd like to address that?
I'd like to say I just wrote something. It's like next to Mariah initially, I said, motherhood is not easy. And the husband was committed to the institution of the marriage, but not to the marriage itself. And I don't know that I would say Mariah wasn't a good mother. I think she did the best that she knew how to do. And I think, all of us, it's like with parents, good or bad, it's like we don't come with instruction books. So parents, they're learning on the job with their children. So I think that she did the best with her wherewithal and where she was. And then of course, when her husband is having an affair with another woman, and I mean, they catch this woman in their own house, in their own, coming out of their bathroom, that's steamy. But anyway, yes, I think that something was missing from her after that.
Okay.
I thought, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think Faith, I'm sorry, I think Mariah was a good mother, the best that she knew. And Millie, her mother, who probably modeled motherhood from her, but she was no nonsense. But her daughter didn't pattern her motherhood style after her mother. She was a little bit different. I remember one section of the book, I think the Faith was being evaluated, and they gave her 2 baby dolls, and they asked a question about the 2 mothers, and her reply, she held up one of the dolls and say, this baby doll, this mommy doll does all the kissing, and this mommy doll does all the crying. So I think what she was saying, like my mommy kisses me all the time and is loving and everything, but she does a lot of crying also. And in later chapters, you see Mariah is growing. She's getting stronger. She's not that crying mother anymore. So it's a process for her to find her space of how she wants to be a mother. And I think the ordeals that she was going through with colon, with all the notoriety of Faith being exposed for the religious aspect, is helping her to become a stronger, more resilient mother.
So you
Most
kind of agree
definitely.
with what Millie described motherhood as a work in progress.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. You know, I just want to add something real quick and think about Mariah as the mother. Your daughter catches your husband. I mean, it would have been terrible for Mariah, but knowing your daughter, and she doesn't have an understanding, but children would still know, why is this woman here and, not fully clothed? It's like that had to wait on her as well. And then, the dad leaves them immediately because her name, I believe, was Jessica. She was pregnant. I mean, my gosh, how long had this been going on? And if they hadn't just dropped by the house to pick up the leotard because they had forgotten it on the way to ballet class, it's like, who knows how much longer that would have gone on. But
Right.
the story was the story.
Right, that's right. Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll
go
go.
next.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I think that, go ahead, Sadie.
Okay, I think she,
I
yeah,
think
it
that,
like, oh,
go ahead, Zadie.
okay. I think she is a work in progress. She says at the beginning when she had Faith, she didn't have a connection with her. So she felt she was never a good mother because she didn't feel that connection with her. And as she tended to be, she was just all wrapped up in her husband, and she lost herself.
Mm-hmm.
And as she got stronger, she felt she was a better mother, as things happen and she had to get stronger, and she ended up being a good mother. Now, I think Faith would always say she was a good mother, although she cried a lot, but she was a good mother because she was there for her all the time. So Faith felt she was a good mother on there.
That's
But
right. She
she's a
was
work
there
in
when the
progress. I think we're all a work in progress.
Yes.
Amen.
right. And Mariah was there when the father wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, Odella.
Yes. By all basic definition, I would say that she was a good mother. I think the part that made her look less of a strong mother is the fact that Colin had beaten her down.
Mhm.
He really was a very heartless person because it was all about him.
Yep.
And as long as he was elevated, then he was content in the relationship. So, in a way, she had to forfeit her own strength, so to speak. So, even if she was strong, she still would have considered herself weak because in her mindset, it was all about Colin.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Right.
then when she found the woman in the house, I think she recognized, sadly, that she had set aside her motherhood for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when she really questioned who she was as a woman and as a mother. But I think for all intents purposes, I think she had the basic ingredients to be a good mother, but she lacked such low self-esteem.
Mhm.
Correct. And
Right.
I feel for women who give up their careers and what they want to do to stay at home with their children and be supportive of their husbands with their careers. There have been women who've been attorneys and they set aside their careers for their husband's political career. So
Mhm.
it's, so a lot of times you do that out of love. And if the marriage works out and there is fidelity and the family structure is strong, wow, that was a good decision. But then when there's infidelity and you feel like, just like the movie Waiting to Exhale, it's like it's like I gave up my life and this, and it's like I can understand her being mad and like putting all of his fancy clothes in his car and lighting it on fire. Cause it's like, I can't believe you did this to me after
Mm.
all I gave up for you. So I think particularly, and it's usually women, it's like we typically don't have men giving up their careers, for the women.
Mhm.
But I think when women do make that decision, they need to really, really go within themselves and say, am I going to be okay with this if things don't work out? We look at it from the standpoint of it working out, but one thing, and even if you do, just don't ever lose yourself. That's the main thing,
Right.
because you can devote everything to them, and then the kids go away. We see this happen a lot with couples. They divorce after the kids leave the house and go to college because it was all about the children, and they don't know each other anymore because
Mhm.
they didn't continue to date and cultivate their marriage, and now the kids are gone, so the glue that kept them together has left, and now it's like, I don't even know who you are anymore.
Sometimes that happens. That's right.
Yeah. But hers was from the beginning, because even
Mhm.
when they were in college,
Mhm.
he would go along with her, but she couldn't go to the party, the frat party
Thank you.
with him,
Mhm.
and stuff.
Right.
So, and then he'd asked her to go somewhere. She's studying. She just put down her books and went, So she was just a dish rag from the beginning.
Yes, Zadie, very
Zadie,
well
you're,
said.
you're taking us into my next question. My next
Okay.
question is, in the early pages of the first chapter, Mariah describes her marriage as perfect, yet moments after she and Faith discover Colin with another woman, Mariah says, oh God, it's happening again.
Again.
Are
Again.
there other indications in the story that Mariah refuses to see the truth that is right in front of her?
Yeah, right from before they got
Mhm.
married.
Mary.
Before they got married, he wouldn't take her to the frat party. What, he had another girl with him, and then whatever he told her, she believed.
Right.
And
Right.
the first infidelity after they were married,
Right,
and she had the nervous breakdown and he
Right.
committed her.
right.
So it's like, I think someone said Colin had no heart.
No,
Yes.
No. And my question also is, was she the same woman the second time that she was the first time?
no,
What-
I
I
don't think
agree.
she was the same.
No.
I agree.
She didn't fall apart the
I
second
agree.
time.
hmm So that showed that she had started growing long before
Correct.
this happened,
Mhm.
you know? Okay, let's go to another question. Again, as you read in the story, did you trust Ian Fletcher? Discuss his multi-level personality, Harvard educated, yet working for a trash TV show. He's hiding as much in his life as he uncovers in others. What is he so afraid of, and what is he trying to prove? A lot of questions.
Mhm.
I know. Ian, it's like, oh, there were so many layers that he
Mhm.
showed us. It's like you trusted him, and you were Ari in the beginning, but then we grew to trust him, and then he kept doing things that weren't trustworthy. But then as the story unfolded, he was looking out for Mariah. And the fact that those two got together when they were just like
Total
two
opposite.
polar opposites in the beginning, it's like, wow. But it's like, did we, even though their relationship, they got together, it's like, it made me think, were there still things that he was hiding?
And you
I
know what he was hiding. Who wants to say it? What was
he
he hiding?
he believed in God, but his brother
His
also.
Right.
brother. Mhm.
Mhm.
He's hiding
He was
Right.
his
hiding
brother.
his brother, but she was hiding stuff. I think they had more in common
I think they did too.
because
Mhm.
they were both hiding their past, and that
It's
kind of
it's almost like there were two halves of a whole. very
Right.
similar. To that.
Right.
Very well said, Odella.
Let me, hold on 1 second, guys. I'm in a meeting. Can I call you right back?
Odella, I want you to add some more about that. What are your thoughts? It's like I
Okay.
hadn't thought that.
Well, for one thing, what he was lacking and what he needed in his life was what Mariah had.
Right.
And what she was lacking is what he had.
Confidence.
He had an
Yeah.
inner strength.
Confidence.
Yes,
Mhm.
confidence.
He had that confidence that shone through it. And even though he did some despicable things, but there was something about that bottom layer that I thought there's a nugget of something in there that's good. And
Yeah.
he was trying to push it down harder, lower, because he never wanted it to surface, because I think he was afraid that he was just as weak as he saw her, which I thought was kind of interesting, but in a different kind of way. So in the end, they were two parts of a whole. The fact that they
Mhm.
found strength in each other put a smile on my face, even though you would think these two people can't possibly get together. But then he was becoming her protector,
Correct.
and she was
Uh-huh.
becoming his protector.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Mhm.
And you know
And-
what? He was growing just like she was growing.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know,
Because he was an atheist.
yes,
Yes.
totally against religion or anything and didn't believe. So let me just take a moment to point out the miracles that took place. Number one, the daughter tells her mother that her guard forgave her about Priscilla. And the
Yes.
mother's mouth dropped
Right.
when she saw that. Then the grandmother was saved
Mhm.
and brought back to life.
Right. Had died from a
Yes.
heart attack.
Right. Had been pronounced dead for
Correct.
was it an hour?
Yeah,
Mhm.
within an hour. Yeah.
It was an
Yes.
hour.
Yes.
And the
Then
guard said he did it because that was the mother's silent wish in her heart, was that that her mother would come back.
and she heard her mother saying, "Oh God, oh God."
Yes.
You know. Well, next thing, the baby,
Yeah.
the little what do you call
Baby
it?
with AIDS.
Baby with
AIDS.
AIDS. Mhm.
He was and believe it or not, it was also a miracle with Michael, the brother. Even though you
Yes.
didn't
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
at first when
Yes.
she encountered him, there was a miracle with him. Now, was there any that I missed?
The
No, those
couple,
were
the
the four.
fighting
I wrote them
couple,
The whole
Yeah, that's right.
hospital.
the fighting couple who
Right, the
had,
Jewish
The
couple.
fighting
Mhm.
couple. Yeah.
Couple in counseling at
Right.
parish. Yes.
Mhm.
Right,
Right.
that's right.
And then the whole hospital, when she was in the hospital, it was empty because she was curing everybody.
That's right.
And
That's
the
right.
whole floor was empty on there because everybody was cured and left.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Ian saw some of those things happen, and I think it changed him as he was seeing or going through all of that. Okay, here's another question. Faith is 7 years old, called the age of reason in the Catholic religion. It is the age of the first confession. Do you think Faith is old enough to know what is happening to her? As you read, did you think that she was directing what was happening?
I don't think she
I
thoroughly
don't know.
understood it. No, she was too young. And all of these things that were happening were foreign to her. But it's just like children with their spirits. They're so in tune to God because
Mhm.
it's like they're pure. They don't have all of
hang-ups.
the mess that we've seen
Mhm.
and or people as we age. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
children, if they meet someone. We do it too as adults, but children are very innocent and very honest. They can meet a person and they don't like them and they don't want to be with them. It's like you have to pay attention to your child. If you have a babysitter and that child's like, "No, mommy," and they're screaming, it's like, pay attention to your child. Now,
Don't
if
send
That's
it's
them
a
right.
there.
child who never wants to stay with the babysitter, that's one thing. But if it's
Mhm.
a child who normally will go to people, but then there's certain people they come around you, pay attention to that because it's their spirit. It's just like we can meet people and it's like, ooh, you don't say anything, you just meet them, but you can feel like we're not on the same level spiritually, and we feel their energies, you feel where they are. So I don't think Faith had an understanding of that, but I think she, with her innocence, it's like the spirit flowed through her.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Let me ask a question though, but when she got to the point where she had to go to the bathroom and she saw all the people outside and she raised her head, do you think, to me, she kind of understood then because she could hear all the prayers coming to her and she was acknowledging, what she had
Yes.
done.
Yes.
So she
Well,
kind of learned it over time, maybe.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
think she was growing in what was happening because, if you
Amen.
remember, when she saved her grandmother, she said God told her what to do.
Right.
Mhm.
So
Right.
she was growing and learning as she was going through all of this.
Mhm.
Exactly. And it wasn't like they didn't share in the book where this was a part of her life, but she listened and she did what God told her. So
Right.
she was obedient. So she was just a pure, beautiful flow of the spirit.
Exactly.
She didn't question, she just did it. What do adults do? God, are you sure? It's like Abraham didn't question when God said, just leave your land and go. Sarah says, where are we going? I don't know. God just told us to go. Well, how are we going to feed ourselves? We'll just go and God will take care of us.
But she was a smart little girl,
Yes, she
She was.
was.
especially when I remember when she first met with Kinsey, and Kinsey said, "Well, I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm going to let you ask questions." And the first question she asked, Kinsey came back with a question, and Faith said,
Faith
"I
said,
thought you were
Just-
supposed to let me ask all the questions." Kinsey had to back off. She was a smart little girl.
She was.
Anybody else on that question?
Well, I'm not sure how aware or unaware she was. I just was struck by the fact that, like a lamb, she was innocent and her
Mm,
heart was open. And because her heart and her mind was open, she could be obedient to God.
Right.
And she was receptive because of that. And really, that's what God wants us to be, like the little lamb,
Right.
to be like children, to be receptive and open to Him and not question, because she didn't question. She just did whatever He said do. And she would go on her merry way and still smile, and then turn around and be a little girl and laugh and ask questions. So she was an important element in the story because I'm sure everybody was watching, even her mother,
Mm-hmm.
because her mother had to say, well, what is this that's happening with my child? I don't really fully understand it, but something's different here. And I need to find out what this is. So
right.
then she started questioning,
Mm-hmm.
are you real, God? Are you truly talking to my daughter? You know, she made people stand up, sit up, and pay attention.
Amen. Very well said, Odella.
Yes,
Stand
yes.
up, sit up, and pay attention.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the clergy. Okay, what most concerns the clergy who examine Faith? The fact that she is Jewish, the assertion that she is spouting heresy. Discuss the connection between religion and family.
Mm.
Well, I don't really know that I have a full answer for you, Sister Vivian, but the one thing that I was struck by was that when the rabbi said, she's Jewish, I mean, she's a Hebrew, she's Jewish. So
Mhm.
therefore, she's always going to be a part of us. So it's like you can't, even though she wasn't raised in the church and her mother and father did not profess to believe in anything, he said that didn't matter. But because she was Hebrew, because she was Jewish, she had a direct connection, right? And there was no way to be disconnected.
Right.
You understand what I'm getting at? So whether she knew God or whatever he wanted her to understand about her family culture, he was suggesting that there was no way to be disconnected from God because of that, because that connection was there in the family from birth through blood or whatever. I don't know. But I
Right.
was struck by that more than anything. So it's like you can't escape that. He was saying,
Help me
you can't
remember
talk
something.
that away. You can't.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I'm just saying that that was the one thing that I was struck by the most, beyond anything that was going on with the little girl and their investigation, that no matter what, she could not be disconnected from her tradition, from her family religion or whatever. I don't know. May not be saying it correctly, but that's the one thing that I was struck by.
But did the clergy ever hear that she was quoting Bible verses and had never studied any Bible or known anything about the Bible? Or
Yeah, the Catholic one did.
he did?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
mentioned that because normally with the stigmata, they pray all the time. They want to tell you about it and stuff, but she didn't study the Bible or anything, but she knew this stuff. So the Catholic ones did. One thing though is because she was Jewish, they don't believe in Christ. So, but she had the holes in her hand and on her
Yes.
side, and so they're like, the rabbi was like, well, what is going on? She, this is Christ, that, and so, and the Catholic ones didn't want to be embarrassed. So they said they wouldn't say one way or the other because they didn't want to put a statement out and be embarrassed about it. So I was like, I don't know.
And what about the fact that she said God was a woman?
Right. And they were mad about that.
Oh,
They
yes, they were
that.
up and roar about that. And one thing about Catholics, it's like they want to prove things it's like, as a Christian, we know God heals, we believe in miracles, but the Catholic Church always wants to prove things. And it's taken them decades to prove things from years ago because they want to see the proof. It's like they're trying to make something that's spiritual physical when the only explanation is it's a God thing and it is spiritual.
Yes, yes.
I like how the commonality, how faith brought, I think, Zadie, you addressed it earlier when we first started off, how she managed to bridge these religions together. I remember the priest and the rabbi were having an argument over her, like Cindy was saying, the Catholic Church said, you got to prove it. They wanted to prove that what she was doing was genuine and lining up with their version. And then they said they were arguing, and I can't remember exactly, but then the Catholic priest came back and said to the rabbi, she's talking about Jesus. Okay, so how do you explain that? Okay, she's supposed to be Jewish, so she really wouldn't know that much detail like she knows about Jesus, And another thing I noticed at the beginning, she was trying to hide those holes in her hand.
Yes, yes.
Okay, she would put them under her thighs to keep people from seeing them. But as she got more comfortable, she actually started playing. The one couple of pages back, I read she's putting a light or something through the holes when she was in.
Was it like a pencil or something?
A pencil or something she was doing. So she wasn't as self-conscious of them. She was getting comfortable in this role that she had. But at first, she was hiding them.
Right.
In fact, she hid the bleeding from her mom.
Exactly. And that's one thing that the priest, what was the last priest's name? Rapetti or I can't remember his name, but he pointed out in his report that most stigmatas hide their things that show that they're experiencing stigmata. And that's something that he made sure he put in his report. And I like the fact that he was I don't know, like against her being
correct.
Right. And then he changed.
Yes, he did. He did. He became,
Yep.
he started to believe.
Exactly.
Yes. And I thought it was so, when when the whole thing came out with the hands and, she's running away and she's going through the forest and Ian gets her and,
Mhm.
she's hospitalized. Isn't it something? This court case is going on and she's in the hospital and it's like she's all in renal failure. It's like her physically she's deteriorating, and then when she turns around and how that all occurred and the judge talked to her, it's like, wow, strong little girl.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But she was taking on everybody's illnesses in the hospital.
Yes.
That's why she was failing. She was taking on everybody's illness on there. But when she heard her mother, then she came back.
Now, did you guys get far enough to hear what Kenzie's written report said?
Yeah, well, she was said to give them to the dad, didn't
That's
she?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she said give it to. She should go to the dad.
But then what happened in court? She
She
told
turned
the judge,
around.
Turn it
that's
around.
right.
She
Told
turned
the
it
judge,
around.
forget that. Because I think her eyes were open when she saw how that girl came back to life when her
Mhm.
mother came
Mother
into
was
that
in.
room.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That was, ooh, that gave me chills when I got
Exactly,
there.
because Kenzie actually snuck Mariah into the hospital because
Right.
she wasn't supposed to visit.
Right.
And yes, and then mommy, and when she holds her face, but I love the fact that the judge did talk to Faith at the end.
Yes. Mhm. Well, let me ask another question. How big of a role does the media play in the public's response to faith? Does the public's right to know justify broaching faith's privacy?
Mm.
The
I don't
public's
think
right to
so.
No,
know, it
no.
doesn't, it shouldn't, but is that what occurs? Definitely. I mean, and this is something, it was a case that was brought out. So, it's in the media, it's in the limelight per se. Whereas, quote unquote, I won't say average in a bad way, but, most of us, it's like our lives they're not TMZ, or,
Mhm.
we don't have the paparazzi following us. We could be doing fabulous, wonderful things, but if we aren't in the limelight, for media's sake, or something we've done, good or bad, the world leaves us alone. But then when you attract their attention, they're just looking for a story. It's all about money, but that can
Mhm.
skew things.
Mhm.
And
And in
it's
the beginning, that's what Ian was after, a story. Go
right.
ahead. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
he was.
Mhm.
It was all about the money, the Benjamins.
And look how the media attention as well as the public demanding or wishing to see her so that they can be healed or someone in their family can be healed, infringed
Right.
on her. She couldn't even go out in her yard and play
Exactly.
until the court advocate came over and just took her out there and just told her to just pretend they're not,
Right.
pretend they're not there.
Exactly.
And her mom couldn't get in her car to go shopping. The
Thank
grandmother
Mhm.
say, I didn't want to face the crowd to go shopping to refill the pantry. Look at the infringement because the
Correct.
media demanded to know the access to this baby, that they infringed on this baby. They
Correct.
cut her childhood short because she couldn't go
Correct.
out and play. She couldn't go to school. She couldn't be a little girl.
Mhm.
No privacy. And I understand how a lot of celebrities, some celebrities, they'll sell their babies' pictures right in the beginning. And
Right.
then others, we don't even know what the children look like. And I can understand that. It's like the celebrity has chosen this lifestyle and this is what has happened. But you want to shelter your children. In this crazy world that we live in, the less people who know what your children look like, the better,
Mhm.
because it's on us to keep our children protected, and it's just a crazy world.
Mhm. It
And
really.
it's like, those people, when you think about it, they have no heart. This is a family, it's a child, they're going through things. Just let them have their peace. They don't care. It's all about the story. It just shows it. People are so self-centered, or they're
Mhm.
job-centered, because their job is saying, go there, get the story. And people just lose sensitivity towards others. And we need to
Mhm.
put ourselves in that position. I couldn't do that job. because I'm private. It's like I wouldn't want to infringe upon someone's privacy.
Yeah, and the links that they went through to get a story, oh my goodness, crazy things. Okay, I got another question, of course. Mariah says, and I know the answer to this, but I want you guys to tell me why you're going to answer this way. Mariah says, you can't be a mother, can you, if your child is taken away? As you read this story, who did you want to win custody of Faith and why?
I'll say I wanted mom to.
Mariah.
I really did, because mom grew so much. Mom was healing. They can heal together. Mom became more
Yeah.
understanding of her daughter. Colin, he didn't want his daughter. I mean, Colin, it was his selfishness, his control, because I don't think Colin respected and thought much of his wife after she had a breakdown. But why did she have a breakdown? It's
Him.
like,
Mm-hmm.
so no, I didn't want Colin to. And it's like, that's not fair. Why do you get her? It's like, Faith is all Mariah had. And she
Mhm.
was doing a great job and she grew.
Anybody
I
else?
agree. I felt like she deserved her daughter.
Amen.
She deserved to continue to have that relationship with her daughter so that they both could grow
Yeah.
into strong women. I never felt that Colin was deserving, because look how easily he was able to walk away.
Mhm.
For somebody who wanted to do right by his daughter, he didn't in the beginning.
Exactly.
And even if he didn't want to stay with his wife, why would you bring a woman into your home with the possibility that your child could see that he was just a dumb, weak man?
He was, and he was
And
supposed
that,
to be out of town. He was a
yes,
salesman. And anyway.
He
And
and he
now
didn't.
we know what he was doing.
Mariah,
He was out of
yeah,
town.
Mariah had the bond with Faith. She had that bond. You may not
Right.
have been there after she was born, but eventually she developed a bond with her daughter.
Mhm.
Colin didn't have that.
Mm-mm.
When the events first started happening to Faith, and he was in Las Vegas getting married or whatever he was doing with Jackie,
Jessica.
they were calling him. Mariah
Mhm.
was calling him. He didn't even bother to pick up the phone to
That's
learn
right.
that his child was in trouble.
he turned his phone off because he didn't want to be bothered.
Mhm. Yeah, he did not deserve to have his daughter. He was never there. Even the daughter, even Faith said he was gone all the time
Right.
Mhm.
there, and he
Sure did.
didn't care really. It's just all about him.
Okay, in the interest of time, this is my last question. Did you read this book as a fiction or nonfiction?
I went back and forth with it on there. I said, well, this could be true, you know. And so, yeah, I kind of went back and forth.
I knew it was fiction.
Yeah.
We as Christians, we see so much truth in this. So, yes, it was real fiction. How's that? Real life fiction.
I like how Cindy put that, so I'm gonna have to ditto onto that. I knew it was fiction, but
Right.
it
It
it's
just,
real life too.
yeah.
Odella?
I feel like it has so much truth in it
Uh-huh.
that it had to be based on real events, real something. I mean,
Right.
life in itself is a story, right?
That's right.
And even when you put pen to paper and you create characters and you put words in their mouth and you give them heart or you don't give them heart, but still it's based on truth in some way.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
for me, it's a little bit of both. I
Mhm.
don't know that I really settled on one or the other. I just had a lot of aha moments. Like, yeah, I could connect this to something that I had read in the Bible, or, God's spirit has to be speaking to somebody's heart, even though, it's fictional based on
Mm.
Nonfiction, I don't know. I never settled on one or the other. I just accept it as an outstanding piece of literature.
Amen.
Thank you. And I'm just going to end by saying what I said in the beginning. Jodi Picoult has a way of making you think and question what's going on in the world. I don't know if this is the first time you've read any of her books, but if you want to read any more, the one I will suggest is Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. And that concludes my discussion on keeping faith. And thank you all for your input. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for choosing such a phenomenal book, Vivian.